Hey folks, today we're going to be talking about 5 things pro drummers know that beginners don't necessarily know. And for all my just give me the goods people, I'm going to put them up on the screen right now. Just screen cap that if you think that's all you need. Still here? For everybody else who understands that a lot of the knowledge is in taking the journey and understanding the how behind each of these things, welcome. Let's talk about why this matters. We've all got our drum heroes, whether it's Garska or Vinny or Steve Jordan or Travis Barker. But I'm not even talking about that right now. I'm talking about the under the radar pros. The folks who show up to the gig and exchange knowing glances with the band leader, who get business cards after the gig, who get called back, who maybe aren't on Instagram, or if they are, the clips are of them just grooving with the band. These under the radar drummers are doing 5 big things right, and those things are contributing directly to why they keep getting called for gigs. They're not chops, and they're not even necessarily technique. They're things that, if you're a beginner to intermediate, you can start fixing right away. And you might be wondering, well, Nate, how do you know beginners don't know these tips or tricks? Oh, I'm Nate, by the way. Anyway, I've been doing a fair bit of teaching since I've had this wee YouTube channel, and I've seen a lot of drummers with a lot of potential who, once we start fixing the 5 things, often make immediate jumps in their playing, but who sometimes don't even know what they're doing wrong at the beginning. And it's not their fault. On this channel, we examine the subtle things that make good drummers good and break them down so you can start playing better today. And today, 5 things pro drummers know that beginners don't. Stay tuned. And folks, today's video is brought to you by me, the 80/20 drummer. Throughout this lesson, you're going to see a number of wee little drum beats and a couple of wee little drum fills. And if you'd like a free transcription of that, I'm here to tell you don't have to do it yourself. We've done it for you. To download it for free, just click the link below the player and tell us where to send it. Now, on with the lesson. Thing 1. It's astonishing how many beginners I come across that don't necessarily know rim shots are a thing. Since we're here, a rim shot is when you play a stroke on the snare that hits the drum and the rim at the same time to create a crack in addition to the head tone. When we start playing, a lot of us just play head strokes like this, which is fine in some situations, but if you want to play any rock or funk, the first difference between you and the pros is clean, consistent rim shots. Now that you've heard me do it, a little montage of examples. This is the other Nate Smith, a modern funk icon. Did you know he's doing rim shots when he plays with Fearless Flyers? Or does those groove solos on his YouTube or Instagram? Yep, even Theo Katzman from Wolfpack is using rim shots for many of his beats. Never mind rock greats like Matt Cameron, or prog and fusion players like Neil Peart and Danny Carey, John Bonham, Mitch Mitchell, Clyde Stubblefield, Steve Gadd. You get it? So how do you do it? To play the rim shot itself, I like to make a whip stroke from medium high and find the angle where the tip of the stick is in the center of the drum, but the shoulder impacts the rim. Just like a bat or a golf club, you'll feel it when you hit the sweet spot. Once you get the feel, you can bring the volume down. One of my favorite ways to practice this is with simple paradiddles with the accented strokes rim shots. I would start this slowly, since the point is the rim shot, not going blazingly fast with these. Playing the tap strokes can make judging the rim shot easier, since, like a boxer, you're measuring distance before striking. When this is comfortable, practice playing simple grooves with medium volume rim shots. You'll soon notice how much clearer your beats sound. Even at low volume, a good rim shot pops out of the mix, so the band can lean on you. Now that you can make the sound, we move on to the next important thing pros do better. Beat placement. Oh, thing pros do better number 2. Beat placement. Think about when a beat makes you want to dance. Like this oldie from Chris Dave. Or practically anything from Steve Jordan. But it's not just these guys. Most pros do this really well. Imagine viewing their beat graphically, as you might in a DAW or digital audio workstation, like Logic or GarageBand. Every snare hit looks like a little peak on a heart rate monitor. When the pros do it within a certain margin, all those peaks are close to the same height. Listen to this take I did where I was trying. When we're first starting out, by contrast, our peaks are often different shapes because our rim shots aren't consistent. And they're all over the place in the timeline. Some early, some late. That all adds up to a gestalt of not grooving. Okay, so how to fix it? Well, salty dogs in my YouTube comments will tell you just feel it or dance while you're playing. And it's true that sometimes just being mindful that beat placement is a thing can help. But I always go back to my memory of college, where after seeing Marcus Baylor play with Kenny Garrett, all the drummers would try to dance and make jazz face when we played, and maybe it improved our feel a little bit, but not much. What really improved my feel and placement was metronome practice, recording myself, then recording myself playing with music. People will say, you don't want to be tied down by the metronome. That's true, but you also need it to show where the pulse is if you don't know. There are tons of exercises around this, but for a simple groove, I just put the metronome on 16ths and practice burying the click with my snare. Once I'd done that for a little while, I'd move my attention to making sure the volume amongst the rim shots was consistent. This is a lifelong process, so you're not going to master it overnight. But just knowing it's a thing and having some basic direction about where to start will help. Next, let's move on to a subtle one. I think 3 pros know that beginners don't. The importance of tuning. Now, I said this is subtle, mostly because there are a million ways to tune a drum, just as there are a million ways to make a dish taste good or sing a good song. But there's still kind of a this works, this doesn't work thing. Anyway, let's check out a few pros with contrasting tuning approaches. Here's Haze Amaze with a modern sound. Here's Dave Grohl with an intentionally detuned snare. Here's the master, Steve Gadd, with a nice fat snare sound. And here's Justin Tyson with more of a crack. So how do we do it? When tuning, I tend to ask the question, do the drums sound good for what I'm trying to do with them? A mushy snare is fine, especially if we're using pro tip 1, rim shots. For snares, one general rule of thumb is they should be in tune with themselves, even if we're later going to loosen one lug. That means whatever pitch I want, I go around the drum tapping and get all the lugs even. The biggest 0 to 1 here, in my opinion, is the bottom head. A lot of drummers completely forget about it. But just tuning the bottom head in a medium range and in tune with itself will be a game changer. For the toms, they can be high or low, but it's about finding a range where the drum sounds good or sings. Here's the kit I played at Meinl. And here's the one I played at my clinic last year at West Coast Drum Shop. I'm showing you these because in neither case did I have the final go at tuning the drums. I left it to the professionals who made those kits sing. For toms, a good rule of thumb is we want them in tune with themselves, even if we're eventually going to detune one lug, and we want the bottom head a little higher than the top one. For more on tom tuning, check this video here, where I review all the best tom tuning videos on YouTube and decide which works best for me. Let's just pause for a second. We've learned to play rim shots, we practiced placing our snare notes in time and volume, and we worked on tuning a little bit. If you did just these 3 things, you'd probably make a big jump in how you sound in just a few weeks. But we've got 2 more. Moving right along, thing 4 pros do better. Flow. Okay, this one is a dooz. When I said most of these were things you could master in a few weeks, yeah, this is the exception. Flow kind of has two parts. First, when you're on the gig, you're not thinking about what you're going to play or remembering that lick you just practiced. You're just listening, vibing, and responding by instinct. The second part is that stuff you're playing by instinct sounds good. In no particular order, here are some examples. Steve Jordan with John Mayer. Little Steve Gadd. Little Nick. How we do it takes time, but for a very cursory overview, see my video here. And in that video, I talk about learning a basic vocabulary of a few words and sentences, practicing them literally, then practicing improvising with them with more and more degrees of freedom. Then play along with music and record yourself. There is a silver lining, which is that if you nail all the other parts in this video, you'll buy yourself some time for your pro flow to develop. All right, ready for the fifth and last? Things pros do better, number 5. Conducting a band. In an orchestra, we get a person who stands up front with a stick. They're mainly signaling when to start and stop, and, shall we say, inspiring the musicians. But just because you're behind an instrument doesn't mean you can't do that too. The drummer has a lot of power to make or break a performance. And with great power comes, say it with me, so the pros are great conductors. They'll always be paying attention to other musicians and doing stuff like signposting changes in the arrangement, like going from verse to chorus. Signaling where the tempo is, and using subtle methods to push and pull on the time, so things stay groovy without really needing to yank on it. Can we edit that out? No, actually, keep it. Let's use an example from one of my favorite band drummers, Perrin Moss. Watch how he changes his beat to draw attention to the arrangement. Another of my favorite arrangement players is Nate Wood. Watch how he uses eye contact to get on the same page with the band before they make a transition between sections. Or it can be as simple as going to the ride at the right time, or knowing when to bring it down and going to a cross stick. I just made a video on this very thing last week, and I share 6 specific things you can do to be a better ensemble drummer. If you want to view that right now, just click here. Still here? In summary, the 5 secret things pro drummers know that beginners don't are: primero, los rimshots. Segundo, beat placement or putting your snare notes in a consistent spot in time and volume. Third, tuning or doing something volitionally to get the sound you want from the drums, not just relying on however they already sound. Fourth, flow, the hard one. Playing by instinct but still having good stuff to say. And finally, fifth, conducting the band. Did we do a thing, you guys? Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that one. And remember, if you want a complete transcription for free of everything I play in this lesson, you don't have to do it yourself. Just click the link below the player and we'll send that right to you. Dudes, it's been real. Always enjoy these. See you again real soon in another lesson of the week. I am really hoarse. Antibiotics plus trained this morning, plus just brain fogged. I feel dumpy, you guys. I feel a little dumpy. It's okay, though.